This is Pod Strangely Warmed, a place where we tell the good Methodist story, where we have conversations that invite followers of Jesus to seek after that loving, just, and free world that God imagines for us all, and have a little fun along the way. Hi, and welcome to Pod Strangely Warmed. I'm Daniel Hawkins, and today on the podcast, we are continuing our conversation looking at how we as churches across the newly forming Horizon Texas Conference can be very intentional about our ministry connected to the start of school and how we can take our next step in our back-to-school initiatives and partnerships, whether that's related to praying for our young people, taking our next step in a school partnership, or something else. Last week, you heard a perspective from a school educator and a pastor who partnered together. And this week on the podcast, I'm incredibly excited to be joined by young people from across our annual conference who will give us their perspective on what it means to partner well as the church and what students actually want from us as the church. And so that we don't have to create this whole thing that gets rolled out and y'all all collectively go, that's sus. Just like that. You know me, there are dad jokes in the midst of this. We don't do self on a shelf today. We're taking a pause on self on a shelf, but I do want to take a minute. Bella, Addisen, and Nick, thank you so much for being here on the podcast today. Can you help us get to know you a little better? Tell us where your church home is and maybe what's the best, worst, or weirdest part of your youth group.
Hello, my name's Isabella, or Bella. I'm from Western Hills United Methodist Church in Fort Worth. And I would say that the best part of my youth group is how we're very little. So we all, it's very little, so it's like a really tight-knit community. And I really enjoy that we always talk about what's going on with our lives.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's nothing better than having people who can walk through life with you and really know you. That's a beautiful gift. Thanks, Bella. Addisen, how about you?
Hi, I'm Addisen. I'm from Springtown, First United Methodist Church. And my favorite part about my youth group is probably the fellowship that we have together, and also my youth director. She picks out very fun little things for us to talk about, so I love all that stuff.
Nice. What's an example of one of those things you get to talk about?
So currently we are doing a series on how to pray. So I think to the beginning of when we started it, we had a bunch of different fun little examples on ways you can pray. So maybe writing it down, or I had one and she had me show it where you put a chair in front of you and you pretend that God is in the chair and you're talking to him that way.
Yeah.
So little things like that.
Very good. I think prayer is one of those things that we so often don't fully understand, right? And we we try to make it fit in a small box when it can be so very much, right? When we put it in a box, we end up going to God with our shopping list, and that's about it. And so I'm super pumped that you guys are doing that. Thanks, Addisen. Nick, how about you? Where is church home, and what's the best, worst, or weirdest part of your youth group?
Hi, I'm Nicolas. I'm from Crowley First United Methodist. The best part of our youth group is that we all basically go to the same high school, so we can all talk about our own like specific details, like what's wrong with our day or what's good about our day, but we all kind of know what's going on because we all experience it too.
That's that same experience of people to walk through life with, right? But the added benefit of not having to explain to folks at church what happened at school, right? You know the same people, right? You know the same characters along the way. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here on the podcast with us to help us know a little bit about, because, we are a Methodist nerd podcast, right? Pod Strangely Warmed is for Methodist nerds. We are the podcast of the annual conference, and therefore we, as we jokingly said a little earlier, we got a lot of Methodist grandmas that listen to this. And as a church that wants to champion youth and children, we sometimes can make the mistake of having a lot of those of us with more gray hair than we want to admit sitting in rooms together talking about children and youth rather than talking with the young people whose ministry is so immediately impactful within our local churches. And so thank y'all for being here to help us remedy that so we can be in conversation together. Can y'all give us a window? What is back to school this season, right? Of getting prepped, maybe it involves practices and all that kind of things. I know my girls are, they are getting pumped about buying school supplies. I never was pumped about buying school supplies, but apparently now they're an opportunity for self-expression in the way they weren't in the 90s. What is kind of top on your mind as you enter in the season of getting ready to start school again?
Trying to make us just think about how many classes I'm gonna have and how I'm gonna get to balance that out with everything in my life. Yeah. So I would say that's a really big one, because it's I'm gonna have homework again. Well, I have homework. I'm taking classes over the summer, but that's another thing. Yeah.
Balancing it all, right?
Yeah.
Kind of getting your mind wrapped around what lies ahead. Okay. Addisen, how about you?
I think mine, I'm always super pumped because, well, first of all, I get to be back in the band hall.
Okay.
Very nerdy thing to say. But I love the community that really, it's like church and band. The community is kind of the same in the way, because we're all bonded over one thing. In band, that may be music. In church, that's Jesus. So I feel they're kind of similar in that way. But I'm super pumped to get back into band and get back into my extracurriculars, because my favorite ones, well, not all of them, but some of the ones I do not practice over the summer. So I haven't. Okay. It's only independent practice. So I'm excited to get back into all that.
And independent practice is a different thing than doing that in community, right?
It's not as fun.
It's not as fun. No. I was a choir boy and a basketball guy, right? Those two, neither one of them is good on their own, right? It's much better to be a part of a choir or to be a part of a team than, because, in basketball, I was the screen setter and the rebound getter. You didn't want me dribbling, you didn't want me shooting, and that's kind of hard to do by yourself. So, Nick, what are you looking forward to and thinking about as you get ready into this back to school time?
Well, I kind of have a combination of both their answers. To get ready for the school, I mainly have to get my mind back focused on all the stuff I have to do, because I'm going to my senior year, so it's
oh, nice, yeah.
It's a lot of stuff, preparing for college and my future. So it's also that on top of the current what I'm in in high school, trying to get that last push for my GPA or my rank or whatever. But also I'm looking forward to spending my last year with my friends that I might not see for the next few years, because I'm focused on college. So that's what I'm focused on.
Well, y'all both kind of hit entering senior year is a very specific vibe and spirit, right?
Doesn't feel real. It does not. Oh gosh.
Is it one of those things where it's both exciting, right? With you've kind of made your way through 3 years of high school to be the top dogs on campus or whatever, right? But then also there's a lot of pressure weighing on it, right? The future things are kind of getting real and heavy in its own way. What in this time feels like it's weighing heavy on you guys?
College applications. I'm researching that. Scholarships, that's another big one. But also what he said earlier about it's the last year you spend with your friends, because it's I've been with these people since 5th grade, and now we're gonna go in our own separate ways, and I'm just this is gonna be different, and that's not a bad thing, but it's kind of bittersweet at the same time. Yeah.
It's a new beginning, but also you don't want to just completely miss everything you've got. Yeah. Nick, how about you? What's weighing heavy right now?
Same thing, college. Mainly because I just came from a UT computer science camp, and so seeing how many people out there do the same thing I am, the competition, and seeing how different projects have been doing, I haven't, kind of feeling kind of inadequate, but also trying to figure out I can do this, so trying to boost myself up, but also seeing so it's kind of hard.
Yeah, working that, navigating that reality of aspiration still, but also remembering the good gift that you have and that you can bring to the table. Addisen, is there anything weighing heavy on you in this season?
So I kind of relate to him in a way. Even though I'm not in high school yet, this is my last year of middle school, and really because I'm in so many different things, and I've kind of gone ahead because I like to know what I'm doing 2 years in advance, basically. So the way I have and what I do right now, practically none of it is going to ever be able to combine once I get into high school. So it's really the pressure of I have to really see what I'm good at so I can pursue that. Because if I keep doing, all the little stuff that I like, but I'm okay at, I won't be able to do what I'm really, truly the best at. So it's really the pressure of seeing, can I measure up so I can keep doing this?
I would like to add something. Yes, it's good to pursue like what you're really good at, but you also have to have time for like pursue things that make you happy. Because if it's all about, and I'll say that as somebody who like my freshman year, I did more fun stuff or like more fun classes than I did. Then sophomore year, I was like, okay, now I gotta step it up. And then this year, it was like a lot of work. And so it's like, it's good to make time for things that you also enjoy,
I'm also to piggyback off that, like freshman and sophomore year, I stayed focused on like building my GPA, like making sure I got everything prepared. Junior year, it hit me so hard.
Yes.
It's so hard. I didn't believe anyone who's like, junior is the worst. No, it's crazy. And I finally realized you gotta have a balance. I mean, it's good to focus on the things that you like, that you know are gonna build you up in the future, but also you gotta have fun because it's your life and you gotta live it.
Yeah. It's so real. Everybody's like, junior year, just wait. And I was like, nuh-uh. And then it happened.
Is there something, I mean, both of you all just completed this junior year, right? Which is known to be one of the hardest, right? Was there a way in which your youth group was able to come alongside you and be a support to you in the midst of that? What did that look like?
You want to go first?
Sure. Since we're all basically in the same grade, except for a couple of us, we all kind of like supported each other, and since we all take similar classes, we kind of make our own study group, and like every now and then, our youth nights, we had just study nights, and we helped each other, because one of us like was better at one thing, so we like that person helped someone, and then we like made our own like study group. It was actually really nice.
Yeah, very good. Bella, how about you?
Like I said earlier, our youth group is kind of small, so like we range in such like variety. So like I'm the only junior. Well, now I'm the senior, but my best friends who are twins, they're graduated now. So we kind of had that difference, and they like gave me advice, but we're not in the same classes. Like they're more like in the arts, and I'm more like just a different pathway. So the adults in the church really help. For example, there's this woman at my church. She's named Janine. She's a genius. She's such a genius. She's a math genius specifically. She has helped me with math ever since I've been in like 7th grade. So every year she just helps me with math. And that was such a really big one because I took college algebra. And it was like, because of the helping she has given me before, I could go through it. But just the way that they've also kept pushing me, and just people who are in the church, honestly, like we have people who have been editors in books before. They helped me with ELA. So just the adults, they give their gifts and they teach us new stuff.
Yeah.
So that helped a lot.
That's great. Often we talk in the church about how we help people grow in Jesus' thing. I'm reminded, Addisen, of the prayer example you gave to us a little bit earlier, and that is powerful. But when we talk about ministry is a holistic thing, right? If you're super stressed about school, you're going to have a hard time paying attention to, back in the day, what Tim was teaching in youth group and what Bradley may be teaching now. If all of that is weighing heavy over the top of you, you're going to have a hard time locking in and focusing, right, on what is happening in this place. And Jesus in the gospel says, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest," right? And so some of that is Jesus doing stuff beyond kind of our ability to understand it, but sometimes it's Jesus giving you the people, whether they're your peers or the adults in your church, to kind of come to you when everything is heavy, right? And help you make it through, right? Whether that's in a time of discernment or a time of, I just got to get this thing done, right? Which senior year can feel like, or at least it did back 20 years ago. I'm turning 40 this fall, y'all. Can y'all pray for me in the midst of that? 2002 was a long time ago, senior year. But there is, in that journey, having people to be with you and for you along your back, having your back in the midst of this. You mentioned some older students in the youth group who maybe had been there for you at different points in time. Do y'all see a switch flipping within youth group where you are going from kind of the ones where the old heads kind of come along behind you and kind of help guide you up to now you're having to flip the switch or being invited to flip the switch, not having to, I guess, but support the younger students in the midst of ministry at the church?
Like I keep mentioning, we're a small youth group. So like the next oldest person after me, she's about to be a freshman. So
Okay.
there's a big gap. And me and the twins, who, like I said, they're already graduated. We've kind of had to, like, along the years, we've kind of already been volunteers. Like, we were the puppets during BBS. So we've always really, since like we were 12 and they were like 14, we've kind of like already started to, like, tell the younger kids, hey, do this. Like, I was an acolyte leader at
Okay.
my church.
Yeah.
And so, that helped me connect a lot with the little ones. Little ones, they're like 9 or 10. But I definitely feel like the things that I help with, they're not aimed for me. Now they're aimed for them. And I'm just so happy that I'm still there to help. And I'm
Yeah.
still part of the community, because I feel like a lot of times when, like, growing up, you're like, oh, I'm not going to get to be a part of this anymore. And I'm like, no, you can still be a part of it, just in a different way.
Yeah. As a community right now, across the annual conference, we're wrestling with the question, how can we champion youth and children better? How do we take this back to school season and utilize it well, right? As churches to better walk alongside students, those who are in our youth groups and those who are just in our neighborhood schools. What has been one of the most helpful things, and Addison, I'm going to start with you, that your church has done to help you navigate over the course of your time in school?
So what our church does is most of our VBS is spent fundraising for back to school related things. So school supplies and of the such. I help run a ministry that is entirely, we take backpacks and we give them to schools along with school supplies. We actually are about to deliver them, I think, in a couple weeks. Because we just finished, we're about to do our big fundraiser to try to get some more money to help push
Nice.
to get some more supplies. That, and I don't think we have a ton that we have quite frequently. We do a lot of lock-ins.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if we're doing it this year, but we do a lot of, we normally will do one around back to school time, like a week before school starts, to really kind of get yourself back to, even though you may be stressing about school and what's going to be with this new school year, that you remember that God is still with you. So
Yeah.
do a lot of stuff like that.
So cool that you're co-leading a ministry right now to help. Not only you are you are a participant in ministry, but you're also helping lead a ministry. So the church's work is supporting you as you go back to school, reminding you God is with you no matter what, right? Well, and you're also getting to embody that for somebody else. Because while we think of school supplies as school supplies and backpacks as backpacks, part of the reason we pray over them before we give them out is we pray that they might be the kind of reminder you talk about getting in the midst of the lock-ins and things, right? The reminder that God is with you, even if things get stressful. Nick, how about you? What is a way in which the church has kind of come alongside you in this time of growing up, going through school in a way that was meaningful and helpful to you?
Well, of course, prayer always helps, and they always are constantly praying for us. Or it's like small little details personal to us, or just like the big things like tests or whatever. But also they try to make an effort to connect with us, like, individually, and like give us support in like any way they need. Like I mentioned, like the study nights earlier, and they're really trying to make sure we have everything we need for like incoming school year or like anything.
Yeah. So they pray for you. And then, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like they listen to you, right? They don't come with here's my idea for what I think you need, Nick. They listen in the midst of that to make sure that you've got what you need relationally, materially, all of that going into school. Very good. That's awesome. Isabella, how about you?
This isn't necessarily like they don't go to our schools, but there's a program called Academy 4.
Oh,
and
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of people at our church volunteer because we are right across from Western Hills Elementary, which, so that's something that we do as a church to help other kids.
Yeah.
But for us, I feel like everybody in our church really wants us to be successful. So if they always ask, do you need something? But mostly it's just listening. Because
Okay.
we have all of us just have so many extracurriculars and all these tests. And they're always like, if we feel frustrated, they just let us talk to them. They give us advice if they ask us, do you want our advice? And we would be like, yes or no. Because sometimes they're like, sometimes you just need to be listened to. You
Yeah.
don't want to hear advice, you just want to be listened to. But I would say a lot of people, it's just the listening. Listening is so important. And whenever they can, they help out. So like I said, Janine, she's good at math. She always offers to help us at math if we need it. And Steven, my Sunday school teacher, he's just so funny. They just give us levity, you know?
Yeah.
And that's so important because sometimes you just need to get our mind off of things, you know?
Yeah. I so appreciate kind of what you guys have shared, right? When churches do it best. Now, are y'all cool if I make y'all sit in the bad guy seat for just a little bit? Are you willing to share with us moments where the churches are trying their best, but they're doing the absolute wrong thing? Right? Where it's clear somebody's wanting to be there for you or wanting to help you, but it's just, and no naming details, right? We're not going to shout anybody out in the midst of this, right? But where the best of intentions doesn't land in the way that they intended it to. Does that make sense? Yeah. And Bella, you hit something that I think can be one of the things, right? The moment where, I love that your sponsors ask, do you want my advice right now, or do you just want me to listen? Right? That distinct, because how many adults, right? Me among them, will barrel in and go, I got the solution to your problem. Here it is. Let's do it. Here's your 6-step process, and you're good to go. Right?
Yeah.
Rather than going, I don't want that. Right? I just need you to hear me, and I need to know that you're here for me. Right? So, adults listening to this, they have been given complete free reign to tell us the truth, because we can't be better if they don't tell us the truth. So where have we well-intentioned, good-hearted Methodist adults in your life just messed up and did something from the best of intentions but missed the boat along the way?
Well, as even though I mentioned before that they do listen to us, there have been moments where they can be closed-minded because they kind of like, since we're like young, they kind of like poo-poo our like ideas away or our beliefs or like any issues we may have as like, oh, you don't really know anything. You're too young to experience certain things. And so that's like kind of thing. It hurts because like, it's like, oh, well then maybe I shouldn't like believe that way. Maybe I shouldn't feel this way. And so then you just kind of like get into yourself. And then when someone who actually cares and asks you what the issue is, you don't want to tell them because you're afraid you're going to get shut down again.
Yeah.
So that's like the big issue, I think.
Okay. Yeah, truly, don't ask a question that you're not open to hear the answer to, right? And don't say, I want to hear from you, and then shut it down. Okay. Yeah. No. Nick, thank you for speaking truth to us. Remember, he had complete free reign to speak truth to us. Disclaimers. Hey, sometimes we adults are thick-headed. I just need to name that in advance, right? I said that. They didn't say that. Isabella, is there anything, or Addison for you, that you want to add to this conversation?
I'm going to kind of piggyback off of one of your answers. You said that sometimes, because the age difference, sometimes I feel like I have to kind of edit what I want to say about a certain topic because I want to make it a little more for them to understand, but they don't understand because I'm not saying what I'm actually trying to talk about.
Okay.
It's just sometimes I feel like, for example, there's big topics that you don't want to talk about in a church setting, but they're so important in today's world that I still want to have their opinions because these are people that I've grown up, people that I admire, but sometimes I just feel like certain things I have to edit out or maybe kind of not share everything that I think about in order to appease the conversation. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And that's not that kind of falls back to me because if I wanted to talk about it, I should just talk about it. But it's just the age difference, the generational difference.
Well, there's a balancing, right? We want to receive respect, but we also want to give it, right? And how do we do that in a way that honors that we may not all be at the same space coming into a conversation, right? But we maybe should still be free to have the conversation, and I think that's a on everybody kind of thing. Lynn Rhodes, who runs Project Transformation here in the Central Texas Conference, often talks about the importance of having spaces that may be uncomfortable, but are safe, right? Where we can have this conversation, we can disagree, and it may push us to places of, discomfort, but it's never going to turn into an attack on somebody, never going to turn into a something where somebody feels judged or anything like that. But it does start with we're going to dare to have a hard conversation, right? And so, but how do we do that well, right? And so, and sometimes we do a self-edit process. Addison, where is the church from the middle school perspective, right? Where have we goofed up at different seasons or different moments?
Apparently, God has an answer for us.
If you didn't hear the thunder, it is you've got a thunderstorm rolling in.
Thanks.
So our youth group, we normally budget out like 5-10 minutes at the end once we're done with our lesson to kind of lament and just share, things that happened at school. And like we are all in the same grade practically. I think there's only like 2 of us that aren't in the same grade / campus, like district. So we'll talk about what's going on, and most of the advice given that is not directly like from I'm gonna call them classmates is just like, it's just, well, go try to find what he says in the Bible. Like, you go do this, go pray, go find it in the Bible, which is valid. You should do both of those things, but sometimes you also need a little bit more of like human to human opinion other than human and the best answer, the most perfect thing that we should do. Sometimes you need another human to say, well, I know we should be doing this, but I understand that you may want to do this, but you shouldn't. You should go do this about something.
Is it fair to say a compassionate ear, right? Somebody who will come along and like sit with you in the discernment, sit with you in the wrestling, sit with you in the moment, maybe if it's a moment of pain or lament, rather than going, well, here's the quick answer, go for it. Or, treating what is a huge deal in that moment to you like it is maybe throwaway. Is that...
Or like inconsequential.
Or inconsequential, yeah. One of the fascinating things about being United Methodist, and forgive me, we're going to Methodist nerd for a second. Do I have permission? The invitation to go find it in the scriptures, I think, is an important thing, right? But the way we understand as Methodist how God reveals God's self to us is through math, and I'm sorry, but the Wesleyan quadrilateral, right? That we believe Scripture is kind of God's primary revelation, but we encounter that. We come to understand it. We read it in conversation with our experience, our tradition, and our reason, right? Our experience is like the lived reality that we have lived in and through. It's the lived reality of the folks who are walking alongside us, right? It's the way the Holy Spirit speaks in our everyday, ordinary life. Our experience in 7th grade should inform our experience in 8th grade, right? And we bring all that to the table. Junior year should inform senior year, right? And we pray that senior year is easier than junior year was, based on what you have just said, right? Tradition, that's just the big fancy word for all the people who've tried to be Christian before us, right? Whether they're like the big official John Wesley, where they get bobbleheads made after them and start denominations, or they're your parents, your grandparents, your Sunday school leaders, Miss Christine, others who come alongside you, right, and pour into you and inform you. That's tradition, right? And then reason is God gave us brains and calls us to use them, right? And so sometimes the answer of go find it in the Bible, well, you pull open the Bible and you look in this section and it says this about a particular topic, and in this section it says something that feels different, right, about the same thing, right? And so how do we resolve that? I think when we go quick and easy and we forget, not only are we doing a disservice to you, but we forget who we are as Methodist nerds. And so thank you for indulging the Methodist nerd moment in the podcast. We're coming to the end of kind of our 30 minutes here, but we had you on because we want to hear from you, right? Not because we need to hear more from me. Is there anything that we have not had a chance to say today that you want the annual conference to hear as we continue this work of bettering our school partnerships and, frankly, making sure that we're there with you guys and for you guys across all of our churches, better tomorrow than we were today and better the day after that than we were tomorrow? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Is there one more, anything left on the table that you want to make sure we hear and hear well?
So one of the things, before we kind of got an idea from Miss Christine, about what we were talking about. So this is kind of one of the ideas that spurred from that. And it was kind of what can the church help with in back to school season? And my whole thing was that as a church and kind of as a church, I don't don't want to say organization, but I guess that's kind of what you would call it. It's a conference. We can work to making the church a better third place. The whole, your first place is home, your second place is school, work, whatever, and you have a third place that we need to be working better as a church to make a third place in the church. So maybe, I don't know, that study session was a great idea. I have never thought about that. That is an amazing idea. So maybe like making a study session, providing more youth opportunities, just to give a place for the kids who may not have a third place. They may not go to some like club. I want to say softball because there's so many club softball players. Like a club softball team. They don't, not everybody's in that. I'm not in that. They don't have that third place. And if we can make the church that third place, that brings people closer to God and that brings people closer to each other.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. Yeah. Nick.
Piggyback something off that because we had a conversation about this, pretty much the same topic at our youth group, and we brought up, Brad brought up the fact that a lot of people don't feel safe in the church, and no matter what they may believe, because he has a philosophy, it's like you don't have to believe in God to be part of the youth group. You just have to be youth. That's like the only qualification. And the conversation was about like how if you don't, like, a lot of people don't come to the church as their third place, or as even if it's their first place, because of the fact that the stigma behind the church is like because the reputation the church has gotten over the last, like I say, like 10 years. Like, it's just become a place of, like, hatred. But we know that it's supposed to be a place of love and caring and, like, taking care of your fellow man. And I think that's just the main message we need to get to, not only to everyone outside the church, but also the inside the church, so we can check ourselves and make sure we are being who we're called to be.
Yeah. To be a place of love, not judgment, right? That's so good. Isabella, any parting shots?
Sure. I would just like to say to the church that a lot of times I feel like it was said earlier, that when kids, we don't have enough experience or maybe not as much life experience in, like, what we have gone through. But I feel like as youth, we bring a very different perspective than a lot of, like, people who are older than us may see, because, we haven't gone through the same things as them, but we have definitely lived a little bit differently that they have, because our world is so evolving that it's like you said, high school, when you were in high school, I don't think it's the same like we are in high school now. So I would just like to say, if you want us to be a part of, like, to share our opinions, don't be afraid to ask for our opinions, because we have things we want to say, and we have things, and I love to help my church, and I would love to help the conference. I went to a conference, and I was just so amazed. I was so inspired by a lot of things that I heard, and I just want to say, I do want to be part of the church. I want to talk about the church. I want to help everybody hear the word of God, but I would like for people to also ask me what I think about it, because I think I could make it better. And when I say I mean, like, just as a generalization of kids, but we have experience too. We have opinions too. Ask us.
There's always wisdom around the table, right? And we can be better together if we are willing to speak and to listen in the midst of that. Well, I'm so thankful that y'all have been willing to speak and to listen to each other today on the podcast. And we thank you for the ways that you are leading your local youth groups. And I'm thankful that is not only making Crowley and Western Hills and Springtown better, but it's also helping us be better as an annual conference. So thanks for taking 30 minutes to be here and help share some wisdom and invite us to continue the work of championing youth and children and being the church that we dream we might be together. So I thank you again for being here with us. And thank you for being here with us on Pod Strangely Warm. Until next time, I'm Daniel Hawkins. This has been Pod Strangely Warm. If you enjoyed our conversation today, know that you can find us anywhere you find podcasts. On Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, any and all the places, we are there. So if you want to continue the good United Methodist conversation that you've been a part of today, find us, like us, rate us, review us, and share with a friend. so that the good news that is happening right here in our own midst can amplify even more.
If you could please cut out where he said sus. That would be amazing, actually.
That'd be much appreciated.
Yeah.
Perfect.